Hello friends, welcome to Storytelling Station and I am Shorabnath and today I am going to tell you the third part of the story, The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet. If you didn't hear the first and second part of the story, please go to my channel. I am going to give you the link in the description below. Now let's start the story.
Tell me, Dad, did you give Lucy, the maid, leave to go out tonight?
Certainly not.
She came in just now by the back door. I have no doubt that she has only been to the side gate to see someone. But I think that it is hardly safe. It should be stopped.
You must speak to her in the morning, or I will if you prefer it. Are you sure that everything is fastened?
Quite sure, Dad.
Then good night. I kissed her and went up to my bedroom again, where I was soon asleep. I am endeavoring to tell you everything, Mr. Holmes, which may have any bearing upon the case, but I beg that you will question me upon any point which I do not make clear. On the contrary, your statement is singularly lucid. I come to a part of my story now in which I should wish to be particularly so. I am not a very heavy sleeper, and the anxiety in my mind tended, no doubt, to make me even less so than usual. About 2 in the morning then, I was awakened by some sound in the house. It has ceased ere I was wide awake, but it had left an impression behind it, as though a window had gently closed somewhere. I lay listening with all my ears. Suddenly, to my horror, there was a distinct sound of footsteps moving softly in the next room. I slipped out of bed, all palpitating with fear, and peeped round the corner of my dressing room door. Then I screamed, "Arthur! You villain! You thief! How dare you touch that coronet?" The gas was half up, as I had left it, and my unhappy boy, dressed only in his shirt and trousers, was standing beside the light, holding the coronet in his hands. He appeared to be wrenching at it, or bending it with all his strength. At my cry, he dropped it from his grasp and turned as pale as death. I snatched it up and examined it. One of the gold corners with 3 of the pearls in it was missing. I shouted beside myself with rage. "You blackguard! You have destroyed it! You have dishonored me forever! Where are the jewels which you have stolen?" "Stolen? Yes, thief! There are none missing. There cannot be any missing." "There are 3 missing, and you know where they are. Must I call you a liar as well as a thief? Did I not see you trying to tear off another piece?" "You have called me names enough. I will not stand it any longer. I shall not say another word about this business. Since you have chosen to insult me, I will leave your house in the morning and make my own way in the world." I cried half mad with grief and rage. "You shall leave it in the hands of the police. I shall have this matter probed to the bottom." "You shall learn nothing from me. If you choose to call the police, let the police find what they can." By this time the whole house was awake, for I had raised my voice in my anger. Mary was the first to rush into my room, and at the sight of Coronet and of Arthur's face, She read the whole story and, with a scream, fell down senseless on the ground. I sent the housemaid for the police and put the investigation into their hands at once. When the inspector and the constable entered the house, Arthur, who had stood sullenly with his arms folded, asked me whether it was my intention to charge him with theft. I answered that it had ceased to be a private matter, but had become a public one, since the ruined coronet was national property. I was determined that the law should have its way in everything.
At least you will not have me arrested at once. It would be to your advantage as well as mine if I might leave the house for 5 minutes.
That you may get away, or perhaps that you may conceal what you have stolen, I said, and then, realizing the dreadful position in which I was placed, I implored him to remember that not only my honor, but that of one who was far greater than I was at stake, and that he threatened to raise a scandal which would convulse the nation. He might avert it all if he would but tell me what he had done. The three missing stones. Then I said, you may as well face the matter. You have been caught in the act, and no confession could make your guilt more heinous. If you but make such repulsion as is in your power by telling us where the bodies are, all shall be forgiven and forgotten.
Keep your forgiveness for those who ask for it.
He answered, turning away from me with a sneer. I saw that he was too hardened for any words of mine to influence him. There was but one way for it. I called in the inspector and gave him into custody. A search was made at once, not only of his person, but of his room, and of every portion of the house where he could possibly have concealed the gems. But no trace of them could be found, nor would the wretched boy open his mouth for all our persuasions and our threats. This morning he was removed to a cell, and I, after going through all the police formalities, have hurried round to you to implore you to use your skill in unraveling the matter. The police have openly confessed that they can at present make nothing of it. You may go to any expense which you think necessary. I have already offered a reward of 1,000 euro. My God, what shall I do? I have lost my honor, my gems, and my son in one night. Oh, what shall I do, Mr. Holmes?
He put a hand on either side of his head and rocked himself to and fro, droning to himself like a child whose grief has got beyond words. Sherlock Holmes sat silent for a few minutes, with his brows knitted and his eyes fixed upon the fire. Then he asked, "Do you receive much company?"
None, save my partner with his family and an occasional friend of Arthur's. Sir George Barnwell has been several times lately. No one else, I think.
Do you go out much in society?
Arthur does. Mary and I stay at home. We neither of us care for it.
That is unusual in a young girl.
She is of a quiet nature. Besides, she's not so very young. She's 4 and 20.
This matter, from what you say, seems to have been a shock to her also.
Terrible. She's even more affected than I.
You have neither of you any doubts as to your son's guilt?
How can we have when I saw him with my own eyes with the coronet in his hands?
I hardly consider that a conclusive proof. Was the remainder of the coronet at all injured?
Yes, it was twisted.
Do you not think then that he might have been trying to straighten it?
God bless you. You are doing what you can for him and for me. But it is too heavy a task. What was he doing there at all? If his purpose were innocent, why did he not say so?
Precisely. And if it were guilty, why did he not invent a lie? His silence appears to me to cut both ways. There are several singular points about the case. What did the police think of the noise which awoke you from your sleep?
They considered that it might be caused by Arthur's closing his bedroom door.
A likely story. As if a man bent on felony would slam his door so as to wake a household. What did they say, then, of the disappearance of these gems?
They are still sounding the planking and probing the furniture in the hope of finding them.
Have they thought of looking outside the house?
Yes, they have shown extraordinary energy. The whole garden has already been minutely examined.
Now, my dear sir, is it not obvious to you now that this matter really strikes very much deeper than either you or the police were at first inclined to think? It appeared to you to be a simple case. To me, it seems exceedingly complex. Consider what is involved by your theory. You suppose that your son came down from his bed, went at great risk to your dressing room, opened your bureau, took out your coronet, broke off by main force a small portion of it, went off to some other place, concealed 3 gems out of the 39 with such skill that nobody can find them, and then returned with the other 36 into your room, in which he exposed himself to the greatest danger of being discovered? I ask you now, is such a theory tenable?
But what other is there? If his motives were innocent, why does he not explain them?
It is our task to find that out. So now, if you please, Mr. Holder, we will set up for Streatham together and devote an hour to glancing a little more closely into the details.
My friend insisted upon my accompanying them in their expedition, which I was eager enough to do, for my curiosity and sympathy were deeply stirred by the story to which we had listened. I confess that the guilt of the banker's son appeared to me to be as obvious as did to his unhappy father. But still I had such faith in Holmes' judgment that I felt that there must be some grounds for hope as long as he was dissatisfied with the accepted explanation. He hardly spoke a word the whole way out to the southern suburb, but sat with his chin upon his breast and his head drawn over his eyes, sunk in the deepest thought. Our client appeared to have taken fresh heart at the little glimpse of hope which had been presented to him, and he even broke into a desultory chat with me over his business affairs. A short railway journey and a shorter walk brought us to Fairbank, the modest residence of the great financier. Fairbank was a good-sized square house of white stone, standing back a little from the road. A double carriage sweep with a snow-clad lawn stretched down in front to large iron gates which closed the entrance. On the right side was a small wooden thicket which led into a narrow path between two neat hedges stretching from the road to the kitchen door, and forming the tradesman's entrance. On the left ran a lane which led to the stables, and was not itself within the grounds at all, being a public, though little used, thoroughfare. Holmes left us standing at the door and walked slowly all round the house, across the front, down the tradesman's path, and so round by the garden behind into the stable lane. So long was he that Mr. Holder and I went into the dining room, and waited by the fire until he should return. We were sitting there in silence when the door opened and a young lady came in. She was rather above the middle height, slim, with dark hair and eyes, which seemed the darker against the absolute pallor of her skin. I do not think that I have ever seen such deadly paleness in a woman's face. Her lips, too, were bloodless, but her eyes were flushed with crying. As she swept silently into the room, she impressed me with a greater sense of grief than the banker had done in the morning. And it was the more striking in her as she was evidently a woman of strong character, with immense capacity of self-restraint. Disregarding my presence, she went straight to her uncle and passed her hand over his head with a sweet womanly cares.
You have given orders that Arthur should be liberated. Have you not that?
Did Sherlock Holmes found out the missing pieces? Did he manage to catch the thief? To know the whole story, subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon below. The next part is coming soon.